So, um, picture a simple flower just sitting peacefully on your windowsill right
You're
now.
right, just soaking up the morning sun.
Exactly. And, it looks like this quiet little decoration, but if you look beneath the surface, it's actually a highly dynamic engine.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's pulling energy from a star millions of miles away and using it to weave these invisible quantum fields into solid physical reality.
Which is wild to even think about.
It really is. And today we are taking a journey, but instead of looking at the universe from the outside in, we're going to travel inward.
I love that.
Yeah, we're using that simple flower as our guide to explore the scientific transition from the macroscopic world of biology all the way down, scale by scale, into the absolute limits of physical reality.
And our map for this journey is actually a really fascinating source. We're doing a deep dive into a project called Infinite Bloom.
Right, which is technically a concept album, isn't it?
It is, yeah, but it functions much more like a rigorously researched scientific narrative.
Yeah, it's really detailed.
Totally. And the premise is entirely unique because the flower itself acts as this conscious observer narrating its own internal atomic journey.
It's just a cool concept.
It starts at the level of petals and stems, and then just zooms in until a very concept of matter dissolves.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, on the surface, a music project about a flower sounds like abstract poetry.
Right, like something very artsy.
Exactly. But the source material is deeply anchored in real physics. And what I found so compelling is how this physical journey perfectly maps onto the structure of a deep spiritual meditation.
Yes, and that structural parallel is really the backbone of the entire deep dive today.
The journey the flower takes.
Right. The narrative of Infinite Bloom moves through three distinct phases: curiosity and observation, then a total dissolution of form, and finally a return.
A complete loop.
Exactly. And if you examine the science of zooming in, from cellular biology to chemistry, then to quantum mechanics, and finally down to the Planck scale, you find an identical pattern.
Which is what we're going to explore, right? How reality functions as an infinite loop of energy and pattern repetition.
Precisely.
Well, I want to start with that first phase, which the album calls awakening. Because when you first sit down to meditate, you don't just instantly drop into some transcendent void.
No, you definitely don't. It takes time.
Right. You begin by anchoring yourself to physical sensations. You feel the floor, you notice the temperature of the air, you listen to the sounds in the room.
You become aware of your environment.
Exactly. And the flower's journey begins exactly the same way, at that macroscopic biological level.
It does. The flower awakens to its immediate environment. It perceives light hitting its leaves, water pulling up through its roots, the pull of gravity.
All the basic biological functions.
Yeah, but let's look at what is actually happening scientifically in that moment of quiet observation. I mean, we perceive a plant as a stationary object, right?
It's just sitting in a pot.
But biologically, it's essentially a raging river of continuous energy flow.
How so? Because, when I look at a dandelion in my yard, it really isn't doing much of anything.
Well, let's break down photosynthesis.
Okay.
We all hear that word in grade school, but think about the physical mechanism here. A photon, a literal packet of light, is forged in the nuclear furnace of our sun.
Right.
It then travels 93 million miles across the freezing vacuum of space at 186,000 miles per second.
Which is incomprehensibly fast.
And then it just slams into a chlorophyll molecule in the flower's leaf.
Wait, so it's an actual physical collision?
A very violent one at the microscopic scale, yeah. The energy from that collision literally knocks an electron right out of its orbit within the molecule.
Oh, wow. So it's like a microscopic game of billiards.
Exactly. That displaced electron now has kinetic energy, and the plant's biology captures that energy, passing it down a chain to forge physical chemical bonds.
That's incredible.
The plant is literally spinning sunlight into sugar. And I love this detail. The album notes describe the cells inside the flower as a choir.
A choir that is scientifically beautiful.
Isn't it? Because cells communicate via chemical and electrical signals, regulating homeostasis in this constant chattering network.
So they're all singing together to keep the plant alive.
Precisely.
I'm trying to reconcile the violence of that microscopic energy transfer with the absolute stillness of a potted plant.
It's a weird paradox for sure.
It makes me think about looking out the window of an airplane at 30,000 feet. Like when you fly over a massive, bustling city, it looks completely still.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, just a silent gray patch on the ground.
Yeah.
But if you drop down to street level, it is pure chaos. Cars are moving, electricity's pulsing, people are rushing everywhere.
And zooming in reveals all that hidden activity.
Exactly. So the stillness of the flower is completely an illusion of distance, isn't it?
That analogy hits the nail right on the head. The stillness is just a macroscopic averaging out of all that microscopic movement.
Right, the zoomed out view.
But this brings us to a really crucial threshold. Because to understand those chemical bonds, to see what that city is actually made of, we have to zoom in past the biological cells.
We have to look at the architectural foundation of the matter itself.
Yes.
So we are shrinking down past the cell walls, past the chloroplast processing the sunlight, down into the raw chemistry.
We are entering what the source calls the atomic garden.
The atomic garden, I like that.
And this is where the physical reality of the flower really begins to challenge our common sense. Because when we reach the atomic scale, the very idea of solid matter completely vanishes.
Wait, vanishes how? I mean, the stem of a flower still has a physical structure. You can snap it in half.
We perceive it as having structure, sure, but what
Yeah.
we are actually perceiving is an interaction of forces.
Okay, explain that.
Well, at the atomic level, an atom is composed of a relatively tiny, dense nucleus surrounded by a cloud of electrons orbiting at massive distances relative to their size.
How massive are we talking?
Think of it this way. If the nucleus of an atom were the size of a marble sitting right in the center of a massive football stadium.
Okay, a marble on the 50-yard line.
Exactly. The electrons would be the size of gnats buzzing around the highest seats in the bleachers.
Wow.
Everything in between that marble and those gnats is just empty space.
So a solid leaf is overwhelmingly made of nothing.
Yes. The structural integrity of the flower isn't maintained by solid material packed tightly together.
Then what's holding it all together?
It's maintained by electromagnetic forces holding those vast empty spaces in a very delicate balance.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if I'm a listener tuning into this right now, maybe walking my dog or sitting at a desk, I have to ask.
Yeah.
If the flower and the desk and my own physical body are essentially entirely empty space, why doesn't my coffee cup fall right through the table?
It's the ultimate question, right?
Yeah, like why do things feel solid?
Think about the mechanics of the atom I just described. The outer shell of every single atom in that coffee cup is a swirling cloud of negatively charged electrons.
Okay, negative clouds on the cup.
And the outer shell of every atom in your table is also a cloud of negatively charged electrons.
Ah, wait. So is it kind of like pressing two opposite magnets together?
Yes.
Because I know when I take two really strong magnets and try to force their identical poles together, there's this invisible, bouncy resistance pushing my hands apart.
Exactly.
Like there is no solid object between the magnets,
Mm-hmm.
but the repulsive force is undeniable. You can feel it pushing back.
That is the exact mechanism. It's electromagnetic repulsion.
Wow.
When you set your cup on the table, the negative electron clouds of the cup's atoms get close to the negative electron clouds of the table's atoms, and they repel each other violently.
So nothing is actually touching.
No. The solidity you feel is literally just the sensation of those electromagnetic fields pushing against each other. You have never actually touched a solid object in your life.
That is, wow. That is staggering.
You're just feeling the resistance of the atomic garden.
And what's wild is that the source material points out how the shape of this atomic garden mathematically mirrors the macroscopic world.
Yes, the structural continuum.
Yeah.
This is honestly one of the most elegant concepts in the project. Nature repeats its solutions across completely different scales.
Give me an example.
Take the branching veins of the flower's leaf. If you map the mathematical formula of how those veins branch out to distribute water and nutrients,
Okay.
and then you look at a satellite map of a river delta carving its way through a continent, the mathematics are nearly identical.
Because physics is always looking for the most efficient way to move energy or mass from one point to an area, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's water in a tiny leaf or water on planet Earth.
Precisely. We call them fractal branching patterns.
Fractals, right?
And it scales up. We see similar mathematical mirroring between the way electrons are bound in specific orbitals around a nucleus and the way planets orbit a star.
So the atom is like a tiny solar system.
Visually and mathematically, yes. The fundamental forces, electromagnetism in the atom, gravity in the solar system, they dictate similar geometric structures.
But the planetary model of the atom has a limit, doesn't it?
It definitely does.
Because as smooth and predictable as a solar system is, I know that if we zoom in even further into the particles generating those magnetic fields, the rules of the universe suddenly change.
Oh, they don't just change, they shatter.
They shatter.
As the flower's perspective descends past the electrons into the subatomic realm, we cross the threshold into quantum mechanics. The album refers to this phase as the quark wind and the quantum sea.
The quantum sea. And if we look back at our meditation parallel for a second, this is the dissolution phase.
Yes, exactly.
Because in deep meditation, there comes a point where the rigid sense of self melts away. You stop feeling the boundaries of your physical body.
You lose that physical anchor.
Right. You are no longer a fixed object sitting in a room. You experience yourself as just pure, formless awareness.
And the scientific equivalent of that formlessness is quantum probability.
Explain that.
Well, up until this point, we've treated matter as things, very small things, sure, but things nonetheless.
Physical objects.
Right. But in the quantum sea, certainty vanishes entirely. Reality is no longer deterministic.
What do you mean by deterministic? Like predictable?
Exactly. In the macro world, if you throw a baseball, I can calculate its speed, its weight, its trajectory, and tell you exactly where it will land. That's determinism.
Cause and effect.
Right. But in the quantum world, you cannot point to an electron and say exactly where it is and how fast it's moving at the same time.
It's impossible.
It's a fundamental limit of nature. It doesn't even have a single fixed location until it interacts with something.
So it exists as a wave of probability.
Yes.
It's like a spinning coin in the air. It's not heads or tails while it's spinning. It's just a blur of both possibilities until it hits the ground.
A blur of possibilities, yes.
Oh.
We call that superposition. And this brings us to the observer effect, which the album heavily emphasizes.
Right. The moment the flower realizes it is both the observer and the observed.
Yes, the boundary completely blurs.
I want to clarify the observer effect, though, because I feel like it often gets mystified in pop culture.
Oh, constantly.
It's not that the universe magically cares if a human mind is looking at it.
Yeah.
Right? It's a physical limitation of measurement.
Exactly. It's purely physical. To measure or observe an electron, you have to bounce something off of it, like a photon of light, so that the light can travel back to your measuring device.
Like radar.
Basically. But because the electron is so incredibly small, the sheer physical impact of that photon bouncing off of it alters its momentum and position.
So the very act of looking at it physically kicks it in a new direction.
Yes. You cannot observe a quantum system without physically interacting with it and thereby changing it.
Wow.
So the boundary between the thing doing the looking and the thing being looked at collapses. They become a single entangled system.
That's trippy.
And even time begins to warp at this scale. The source material has this great line where it notes that time here feels less like a line and more like a tide.
A tide.
Yeah, it stops being a strict forward march of cause and effect and becomes this probabilistic ebb and flow.
So what does this all mean?
For the listener,
Yeah, why does this matter to someone navigating a Tuesday morning commute?
it's a fair question.
I think about how easily we get trapped by the rigid structures of our daily lives. You know, your schedule, your obligations, the fixed labels people assign to you.
It can feel very heavy.
It feels incredibly heavy and permanent. But there is a profound relief in understanding that the rigidity is an illusion of scale.
That's a beautiful way to phrase it.
Right. At your absolute core, you are not a fixed, heavy object. You are a fluid landscape of infinite possibilities.
It is a totally liberating perspective, but the journey inward isn't finished yet.
There's more.
Oh, yeah. If the quantum sea is a vast ocean of probability, we have to ask, is there a bottom to it?
Right. Like what happens if the flower keeps zooming in past the quarks, past the probability clouds?
Exactly.
We hit the floor of reality.
We reach the Planck scale. This is the absolute limit of knowable physics.
The Planck scale.
Right. The Planck length is the smallest meaningful measurement of space, and Planck time is the shortest meaningful measurement of time.
Meaningful in what way? Like we just don't have good enough microscopes yet.
No, meaningful in the sense that our current laws of physics literally cannot compute anything smaller.
The math just stops working.
It completely breaks down. To understand why, you have to look at the clash between the two rulebooks of the universe.
Okay, what are the two rule books?
Well, you have general relativity, which is Einstein's theory of gravity. That demands that the fabric of space-time be smooth and continuous, kind of like a stretched trampoline.
Got it. Smooth trampoline.
But then you have quantum mechanics, which demands that everything is jittery, uncertain, and probabilistic.
So what happens when you try to apply both rule books to a space as incomprehensibly tiny as the Planck length?
They break each other. At the Planck scale, the smooth trampoline of space-time becomes violently warped by those quantum jitters.
It just freaks out.
Pretty much. It creates this bubbling, chaotic environment that physicists call quantum foam.
Quantum foam.
Yeah. At this boundary, matter isn't particles anymore, and it isn't even probability clouds. It just becomes pure frequency, pure resonance.
You know, to visualize this, I imagine opening a high-resolution digital photograph on my phone.
Okay, yeah.
If I look at the whole picture, I see a beautiful landscape. Then I zoom in, and I see the individual leaves on a tree.
Right.
I keep zooming, and the image gets blurry and abstract. But if I zoom in to the absolute maximum limit, all I see is a single glowing square pixel of color.
That's a perfect analogy.
The concept of a tree or a leaf is entirely gone. I've reached the foundational unit of the medium itself.
Exactly. The Planck scale is the glowing pixel of our universe. And this is where the philosophical hinge of our whole deep dive rests.
This is the big realization.
It is. When the flower's awareness reaches this ultimate microscopic limit, this pixel vibrating as pure frequency, it makes a staggering discovery.
Which is?
The smallest scale perfectly mirrors the largest.
The ultimate fractal. We talked earlier about leaf veins and rivers mirroring each other.
Right.
But this implies the entire universe is folded into that one pixel.
And the math actually supports it. Think about the physical structure of a human brain.
Okay, billions of neurons.
Billions of neurons connected by a vast web of synapses. Recently, astrophysicists mapped the cosmic web, which is the large-scale structure of the universe where galaxies are strung together along filaments of dark matter. The mathematical algorithms governing the growth of a brain's neural network are virtually indistinguishable from the algorithms governing the growth of the cosmic web of galaxies.
It's these chills. The macrocosm is literally woven into the microcosm.
It really is.
So the universe isn't a place the flower exists inside of. The universe is a pattern expressing itself through the flower.
Having reached the bottom and realized this, there is nowhere left to go but back up. The narrative of infinite bloom enters its final phase.
Return and renewal.
Exactly.
So the journey was a closed loop.
Yes. The flower emerges back into the macroscopic biological world.
Back to the windowsill.
Right. The chlorophyll is still capturing sunlight. The roots are still drinking water. The physical form hasn't changed at all, but the awareness of its own nature has been entirely transformed.
It's exactly like the end of a meditation session. You open your eyes, and your living room looks exactly the same.
Couch is still there.
The couch is still there, but your relationship to the room is fundamentally altered because you've touched the underlying machinery of it all.
And this return really highlights a core principle in systems theory cycles dominate nature.
They really do.
The universe does not operate in infinite straight lines. It operates in closed loops of transformation.
Like the water cycle.
The water cycle, the carbon cycle. A star ignites from a cloud of dust, burns for billions of years, and explodes back into dust to seed the next generation of stars.
It just keeps looping.
And the microscopic laws of quantum probability at the Planck scale are the exact same laws dictating how the physical petals of the flower unfold in the macro world.
So the microscope and the meditation cushion are basically pointing at the exact same truth.
They absolutely are.
Every time you take a breath, you are actively participating in this unbroken energy continuum.
Yes.
I mean, think about it. The photon from the sun physically becomes the energy in the plant. The plant produces oxygen. That oxygen physically enters your lungs, enters your bloodstream.
It powers your cellular choir.
Yes, it powers your choir, and it sustains the conscious mind you are using to understand this very concept right now.
It's all connected.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up today's deep dive.
I agree. But I do want to leave the listener with one final thought to mull over.
Oh, please do.
Next time you look at a simple house plant or a tree outside your window, consider this. If the physical structure of that plant is a mathematical, fractal reflection of the entire cosmos, what unseen quantum orbits are repeating perfectly inside your own mind right now?